Hello, my name is Christine and I run a vintage shop called Prima Treasures on Etsy. Today I wanted to talk about something called silver deposit or silver overlay. And I have a few examples here to show you. Essentially what silver deposit is the process of, bonding silver, actual silver, in a thin sheet onto glass. And this process was pioneered in the late 1800s, and around the early 1900s is when you started to see companies producing wares made in this style. From what I understand, it hit peak popularity around the 1920s, and then in the late 1920s, when the Depression hit, it kind of fell out of favor and it went into decline. And by the 1950s, people really weren't making products like this on a large scale anymore. So most of the stuff that you see would probably be the 20s to the 50s in terms of age. So the reason I wanted to talk about it is because, it's pretty easy to spot when you know what you're looking for. And essentially, what we would be looking for is some sort of design on glass, but done in silver. And I hope you can see on this particular bowl that it's real silver because it does have some tarnish on it right here on the edges of the glass. You can maybe see it a little better here where it has kind of a more splotchy quality to it right there. So anyway, this other piece is actually marked 925. I believe it has a stamp on the bottom, but most of the time they're not marked. So the main way that you would know that it's actual silver and not, let's say, mercury glass is evidence of tarnish, because again, these items are, like 70 plus years old, and the fact that when you pick them up and feel them on the corner, you can see here on the edge where I am putting my finger, there's actually a little bit of a lip you can feel where the product is applied. So you can actually feel the difference between the plain glass here and where the silver is on it. So if you're not sure just from looking at it, then, actually picking it up, say you see it in a thrift store, picking it up and feeling the design to determine that it's actually applied to the glass over the top layer of glass as opposed to something embedded in the glass would be a pretty significant indicator. And the other thing, hopefully you can tell by these examples I'm showing, is that it tends to have kind of a granny look to it. Because it's older products from decades ago, you see a lot of things like this bread tray that has the flower motif, and then these little shakers here. Let me show you. This one actually still has a sticker on it. It was made in Murano. But you can see very ornate designs here in the silver, just like a heart, leaves, different geometric accents, that kind of thing. So it will tend to have kind of a fussy old lady look to it. But there are companies who did simpler pieces like this where it's just like a decorative border trim or that kind of thing. So anyway, if you want something that has, let's say, legitimate age to it, it's not something from the 80s and 90s. This is definitely antique level stuff since we're talking about 20s, 30s, and 40s. And it has kind of an elegance to it, old school elegance to it. Silver deposit products are generally not very expensive. Most people don't really know what it is and don't really understand that it's real silver. So when they put it up for sale or they toss it in a thrift store, shelf, they don't really know what it is, and so it tends to be pretty cheap when you find it. So if you want something that has a little bit more class than your average tableware, I think silver deposit is a good choice because it has this elegant look of silver, but the price point is typically fairly low for, the product in question. So anyway, I hope you learned something today, and I appreciate you watching. Thank you.